Hi, I'm Jordan Kruger, co-founder of Vesper. Really excited to be here today. I think that we've had a couple really good sessions so far. I loved the last panel. I think that really set us up well for our discussion today. Happy to be here with you, Eric, and would love for you to kick it off and share some of your background and also more about Blockforce Capital.
Sure. So I got started in the mid '90s at Morgan Stanley, and spent a good 15 to 20 years there, running capital for high net worth individuals and institutions. And I went to school for computer science and finance, so I was always on the nerdier side of finance. But it was really a great experience to just have a perch and see both the institutional world and how it treated capital, as well as the individual, kind of the wealth creators of the world, and then how they had to now manage this wealth. And it really did become a burden for a lot of people. But in 2012, I started an ETF business, and that was my first experience of the regulatory Tetris that had to happen in order to get exchange-traded funds launched through, not only financial engineering, but the regulatory engineering. And it is a mess. It really is a mess. And so about 2016, I was looking for better ways, because we were literally sending faxes back and forth with our administrators, and they were emailing us spreadsheets in like 2016, managing hundreds of millions of dollars of capital over spreadsheets and email, and it just had to be a better way. And that's when I went down the crypto rabbit hole to really find this better solution. So that was Blockforce Capital. We launched a hedge fund. We wanted to really go deep in quantitative finance and understand crypto and all of its different innovations. And that really brings us to today, where now we manage this single fund. We have another fund as well along the way, which is part of our conversation. But it's really about kind of breaking down those barriers between the traditional finance with all the overhead bureaucracy to this future of finance, which is really a beautiful thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that that's really interesting, and you really bring a unique perspective, because you have not just this traditional finance background, but you have that computer science background. And I think that is going to bring a lot, because you understand when engineers are talking, you understand when people are saying, oh, abstraction and visibility, whereas so many people in traditional finance are just going to tune things out. And I think that is what is going to really, what we need, because you are truly bridging the gap between traditional finance and crypto and DeFi. And so that unique perspective, I think, is very much needed. And so we'd love to hear more about that, and really how that is coming across and your perspective on DeFi as a hedge fund leader.
Yeah, so as any investment manager, that you have this job to do, which is basically assess risks and deploy capital into the highest reward, lowest risk pool that you can do. So any kind of asset, whether you're managing money markets, you want to kind of diversify those risks across the money market spectrum, or whether it's a lending program that you're allocating to. So that is fundamentally what you do as an asset manager. And where you do that is typically in the traditional world with your prime broker, and it's kind of a known issue. It's like the last frontier of opacity is in the stock lending program. So all of the prime brokers rip all of the hedge funds off daily as they lend out our assets at much different rates than what we could otherwise lend out. But we don't have a choice, really. We just have to suck it up, because that's the best thing we can do. In DeFi, you have this opportunity to now invest your assets and lend them out at your will, and it's a completely, I can look at the code, I can see where the assets are being lent out, I can see the rates, I can see the yields. Right now, if I buy a triple C rated debt, that's there's triple B, there's B, there's double B, then there's B, then there's triple C. It's like very, very low. I'm only getting a 6% yield on this. It's like, dang, it's worse than junk, and I'm only getting 6%. I can yield US dollar stablecoins on the Vesper platform and get 5.5%, meaningfully less credit risk. And it's just, this piece that is just missing in the traditional world.
Yeah, and we hinted at it, so would love to talk about it now. So how Eric and I have got to know each other over the past few months is Eric saw this potential and saw that there was what more can we do in DeFi, and so also Matt brought it up in the keynote, and so we actually, Blockforce Capital has this partnership with Vesper. And I think that it is very unique. It is probably the first private-public partnership with the DAO. And so I would love to share more about that right now, if you will.
Yeah, sure. I get goosebumps even just thinking about it. It's the kind of article that I would have read whether I had anything to do with it or not, and just been like, well, that's cool. And so what happened was we put together a proposal. Anyone can put together a proposal to this protocol or any protocol and an improvement, offer an improvement. Hey, we'd like to help you fix the website, or we'd like to produce this new application that can do this. That's kind of traditional. What we wanted to do was we wanted to launch a hedge fund that actually used DeFi. Not a hedge fund that buys a bunch of DeFi tokens, but really truly using DeFi for what it's here for, and enabling the hedge funds. So all of our traditional institutional investors that invest in our funds can actually benefit from DeFi. And we put together a proposal to the Vesper community, and it was pretty special. It was like within a week that the community just flourished, and everyone went to vote, and I think it was like 99.9% passed on the vote. It was just a really special thing. So basically what the proposal was is we want to launch this fund, but we want to do it in partnership or collaboration with the Vesper community, as they're kind of self-named as the Vesper Knots. And we said we'll give 25% of all of the profits, all of the revenues really, of the entire fund to the Vesper community. And for that, we'd like to have you help us pay the startup costs for this fund. And like I said, the rest is history. We've now just launched the fund last month, and are really excited to.
And our community has been so excited. It's something that it's probably the one thing that we hear talk about so much on Discord. And the one thing that I love about it is just you always have those friends or family members who talk so much about DeFi, and they're the ones who are not crypto native, and they are the ones where it's like, hey, can you walk me through how to buy crypto, or can you walk me through how to use MetaMask? And it's the opportunity where we now have somewhere to say, hey, look at Blockforce Capital. This is a good opportunity for you to start to get involved and have exposure to Vesper, have exposure to DeFi, but through a more traditional route. And love that it is a way where we truly are starting to bridge that gap that I think is very much needed. And so would love to hear some of what you're hearing from your clients and what their thoughts on DeFi are as well.
Yeah, a big part of it is the trillions of dollars that are stuck in money market funds, earning 0.01%, or like I say, in the stock loan programs that are earning probably 0.5%. There's just an awful lot of capital that is dormant and it wants to be invested properly, but your average pension fund manager is not going to download MetaMask, put it on their browser, and just start playing around with DeFi with the pension funds. That's just not happening. And I don't know that it will happen ever, maybe, because they traditionally invest, even if they want to buy stocks, they use a stock fund manager in order to allocate to funds. So that's, and stocks are pretty basic and easy. So that is just the way institutions want to access the capital markets. But DeFi is a different capital market, and it enables this kind of bridge. And so that's where this hi-fi comes in. It's that bridge between the traditional financial capital providers, those who can put money to work, and these marketplaces where you can actually earn better opportunities, better rewards. The amount of yield on a 30-year treasury right now is 2.09%. 30 years. You're taking risk. You're taking an awful lot of risk because if inflation starts to happen, that bond is going from 100 to 60 in a heartbeat. And that's a treasury bond. That's like down 40% in a treasury bond if interest rates go up 3 or 4%. So people just want that extra yield, but they can't get it anywhere unless they have these avenues and these opportunities to participate.
That is so true. And so how well do you think your institutional clients understand the category today?
Not at all, yeah. And we do a terrible job, and because I kind of put myself half in, half out, but the crypto industry does a terrible job of enabling them with things like sushi swap and pancake swap. But again, there's that like meme-heavy approach, but then there has to be this other approach, which is, what is DeFi? What does that mean? Well, it's disintermediating the traditional financial services and the institutions that are there, which probably gobble up about a third of the overall GDP of like a dollar getting invested from the dollar getting invested to the actual investment going up and down. About a third of that gets gobbled up from traditional financial services. So that's really what those institutions are looking to us to solve for. And again, there's the too good to be true. Like, how can I get 5% on a dollar-based deposit over here in Vesper when I'm really only getting 0% over here? It's too good to be true. There's got to be a catch. What's the catch? And so trying to explain smart contract risk and all of these other operational risks that exist so that they don't just think we're pie in the sky or rose-colored glasses. That there are genuine risks with it.
Yeah, and I know that for us, that's something where we try to be very transparent. We try to explain what those technical risks are and to make that effort so people understand, hey, this is what the risks are, and you have obviously your crypto risks, and here are the technical risks. And we really do put that effort into doing that due diligence for the users, so that way they do have that understanding with all of our products. And
to that end, so we had this choice to make early on, which is we want to partner and we want to work with a DeFi platform. Vesper is not the largest DeFi platform with TPF, but Vesper, in our opinion, because that was our job, was to do the due diligence on which platform to use. Vesper was absolutely the institutional quality, institutional grade. Like, it wasn't some anonymous Twitter person that was running it. Like, we knew who we could speak with and who we could talk to. We knew that all the code was audited through smart contracts. So that's why we zeroed in on Vesper as a solution.
yeah, and that is something that we do emphasize. So how do you see DeFi offerings from wealth managers evolving in the future?
It's going to be an evolution, obviously. It's going to start with the funds. That's, so as the team was on earlier talking about this Bitcoin's Polygon fund, where you take this asset, you wrap it up into a fund, and you bring it back to the traditional markets, because that's how they're used to investing. I used to kind of joke in the ETF business that, the ETF industry has jumped the shark when you see an IBM ETF. Like, you really don't need to put IBM in an ETF if you can just buy it. And that's kind of what we're doing right now with crypto. We're like packaging them up, we're putting the training wheels on the Ferrari, and we're bringing it into the exchange. It's not nearly as useful. People can't move around, they can't do anything with it. They can just buy it or sell it, that's about it. But it's the way that people get in, so you got to start in the shallow end and move slowly after that on-ramp into deeper and deeper kind of exploration. And that's really why we feel like a fund is always the best, first solution.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I guess the on-ramp to getting at least into crypto, and it is the on-ramp for more of the traditional crowd.
Yeah.
And it's very much needed. And then once you're in there, then you can start to explore and start to ramp up what you can do. So are there any barriers you see on the road to getting?
Yeah, well, regulators are not making it easy for us, and especially in the U.S. because, and many people don't fully appreciate that we have two regulators here in the U.S. The CFTC, well, we have many, but in terms of investment land, there's the CFTC and the SEC. Most other jurisdictions don't have that. They have one regulator, so there is no confusion over who should regulate this or that. It's just under the FSA in the case of Europe. So we have that complexity, and there's a turf war too because they want federal dollars. They're fighting for more jurisdictions, so that's a problem. The second is the technical kind of hurdle that we have to overcome. Is like not everybody's going to just download manifest, but it starts slowly and then suddenly, it's just all of a sudden you wake up and you say, "Holy cow, there's 100 billion in TDL in this DeFi platform," and that's the tip of the iceberg. In hedge fund lending, I was just looking at, there's around $400 billion lent out, traditionally, just in hedge funds, not in traditional markets. There's $5 trillion in money markets. There's $95 trillion that's managed by registered investment advisors. That's like, we're talking big T's, not like, these are huge numbers. And so it only takes just a little bit, and then that starts that flywheel even more, and then people start to realize, like, if we don't have this, it's not like, should we? Now it's, how do we get access to it? And people are willing to overcome just about anything at that point once that kind of curve just takes off.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think, going to be a FOMO once people start to catch on. Yeah, and I would love to hear also, what do you think is next in DeFi, and more from your perspective and where you're coming from with as a hedge fund player?
Yeah, so I think that the big responsibility as a hedge fund manager is to make sure that the capital is allocated appropriately and most efficiently, and that we're taking care of all the operational risks. As more and more people want to invest in this asset class, I think there's going to be opportunities. So I'm also part of a company called OnRamp, which is it's a technology company for registered investment advisors. So what OnRamp is essentially doing is allowing registered investment advisors to manage crypto for their clients directly, rather than just in an ETF. And what I really look forward to doing with OnRamp is plugging it into a Vesper type platform or some of these DeFi platforms. So then the financial advisors who are a little bit closer to the client, but they're not ready to go all in on that. They're not there yet, but they can actually enable the clients to participate in this asset class with smaller amounts. They don't have to be accredited, for example, to invest in a hedge fund. They can actually just participate in the DeFi protocol themselves with the help of a financial advisor. Because right now, they just basically have to go on their own, because most financial advisors just say, "Sorry, I can't help you." So I think those like kind of technologies that will enable traditional investment managers to participate are going to be critical going forward.
And what do those look like in your mind? Would that be better UI, more integration into the platforms that they're already using?
Yeah, so first of all, that's a big one, is they don't want another technology to have to figure out how to pull it into their dashboards and their performance reports from a financial advisor's perspective. The second is that a lot of clients already own digital assets, and a lot. Coinbase has 60 million clients, and if you just think about the US alone, that's almost probably 20% of the average investor owns crypto in some way, shape, or form. But they haven't really fully used it.
It's just sitting there.
Yeah. And so the more that we can plug into those systems and watch those on-ramps between kind of, first fiat into crypto, now crypto into the universe of crypto, that's really where we start to see, or I personally see the value, because then the joy, the first time you move capital, all by yourself on a Sunday night at midnight when the banks are closed and you would have otherwise had to wait to send a wire. It's so cool. And so the more we can like enable that for individuals as well as their advisors, I think the more joy is going to come to this universe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's very similar to what we're seeing in DeFi already, is that there are a lot of people who we know are holding crypto in Coinbase, but we definitely need an improvement in those tools where you can go easily from just your exchange wallet or wherever you're holding to actually participating in the DeFi space. And once we can start to make that bridge easier to actually start participating, start enjoying what we already are in the DeFi space, then we're going to see so many people take advantage of these opportunities and start to participate and get some more enjoyment with their crypto rather than just holding it.
Yeah, and I do see the future as in the traditional world, you always had to give up ownership of your assets to someone else. Like in the stock world, you not only had to give up your, you had to do your custody, you had to hire a broker, somebody that, it wasn't your choice. You couldn't interact with the exchange, only the brokers could. And then the administrator, the transfer agent, was the one who was managing with DTCC, just a central database, whether or not you owned that asset or not. So if I transferred my assets from me to Jordan, then I didn't really know if the transfer took place. Jordan didn't really know if the transfer took place. We were all relying on trust. In this future state, now everyone can hold their own assets. They don't have to worry if it's 2009 or 2008 and the financial crisis and Lehman Brothers is going under. They don't have to stress. They can just take their assets out of their custodian, put them on chain, and they can handle it themselves. I think that is going to really shake up a lot of banks and other financial institutions, but it's just the way the future is coming. Like it's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
All right, and on that note, please give our fireside chat panel a hand.